guys! Today I have a bit of a special exercise for you. It's an exercise that has been inspired by memory champions. It's a simple but particularly efficient activity that you can try and practice on a regular basis to increase your vocabulary intake in English or in any other language you're trying to learn, really. Let me show you what it's all about. The principle is simple. Take a book, a magazine, or a newspaper article in English, or whatever language you're trying to learn, and select 5 to 10 words which are both interesting and new to you. It's actually important that the words you pick are interesting to you, because that's exactly what helps us learn. The more positive emotion you feel while learning something, the more likely you are to be able to memorize it on the long term. Once you're done writing these words down, it's time to write a little story using those words. Memory champion Yanja Wintersoul says that in order to remember a series of random letters or numbers, she makes up short stories with words that begin with these letters, and when it is a series of numbers she's trying to memorize, then she associates a letter that looks like the number. For example, I for 1, G for 6, and so on. The more absurd the story is, she claims, the easier it is for her to remember the series. This is because it generates strong emotion within her. But there is one very important thing she always adds to each of her stories though. She always visualizes an environment which is familiar to her. She may visualize monsters and all sorts of characters roaming about all along the way from her house to her workplace, for instance. It can be fun to give it a try. So in your story, try and do the same thing. Imagine a context in which these words you've selected make sense. Let me show you an example of what I produced a couple of days ago to train myself as well. While I was reading the newspaper, I wrote down 17 words that I didn't understand from the articles I read. I looked up their meaning, and then I imagined a new story they could be part of. Here is the list of the 17 words I selected that day. There are a bit too many of them for me to bore you with right now, but I will read the 7 first words I've used in my text out loud for you. Dizzying, blackout, power outage, blunder, recount, power grid, and to stumble upon. And here is the story that I came up with. A simple, kind of absurd news story about a teenager who had a little too much fun with his friends and ended up plunging the whole town in darkness. All the words in my list are highlighted in bold characters in the text. I'm just going to read the first paragraph out loud so that you can have a sense of what I'm talking about, because the whole text in itself is pretty long. Teen boy seeks redemption from community after triggering blackout. Some dizzying news from our small town today. Jamie Jr. Curtis, 17, has been accused of triggering the town's major blackout in the late afternoon. The power outage began around 5:30 p.m., leaving thousands in the dark. The boy won't confess to the crime, but claims instead it was due to an unfortunate blunder on his part. He recounts strolling the area with his friends near the local power grid around that time and being pushed violently by 2 of them. He then stumbled and collapsed upon the power grid. As a result, the grid itself collapsed, leaving us all in the dark, or so the story goes. There you go. Do feel free to use this text any way that you'd like if you feel it can help you learn. You can find the whole text at soundsofteaching.com. I have attached the link for you to directly click on below the video. Do remember that your story is yours only. It doesn't have to involve 15 or more words. It can have a lot less or a lot more. It is entirely up to you. What does matter though is that you find the right amount of words that you feel comfortable with at first. And don't challenge yourself on the quality of the writing, unless it is something you really want to do, of course. You are not going to show your story to anyone. It is entirely yours only. The rest of the world doesn't have to see it. But what does matter is that the story makes sense to you. That's all. And remember that the more absurd your story is, the more likely you are to remember the new words that you've used in it. So let your imagination flow and have some fun with it. If you don't know where to start, I've concocted a little list of words for you to write a story with. Feel free to play around with it as you please. Here it is. Door, home or house, mother, daughter, to visit, to miss, happy or joyful, to be over the moon, to surprise or a surprise, and to embrace or to hug. Here's an example of how it could go. Sarah's mother was really sad she hadn't seen her daughter in so long. But one morning, she heard the doorbell and went to open the door. It was Sarah. She had come home to surprise her. "I can't believe it's you, darling. I know Mama missed you so much." They embraced for a long while. "I'm so happy you're here, sweetheart. How long are you staying?"
I'm only here for a short visit, Mom, I'm sorry. Sarah's mom hugged her one more time and whispered in her ear. It doesn't matter, darling. As long as you're here with me, I'll be over the moon to have you. Please do come in now. It's freezing outside.
There you go. Obviously, the style and narration could be much better. It needs a lot of improvement. But it wasn't our goal in this case. In this case, we wanted to keep the story simple and short so that it's slowly absorbed by our brain and the process becomes part of our system over the long term. If you do give a try to the exercise, I would absolutely love to read your story. Why don't you post it in the comments below if you feel like it at some point? I hope you have a great week and I'll see you next Friday. Bye!